Tonight, multiple arrests reported after protesters face off outside a Thornhill synagogue.
We have not done anything to instigate or to agitate.
Condemnation on both sides as the place of worship hosts a real estate event promoting properties for sale, including in the occupied West Bank. We're live at the volatile scene tonight.
Especially for a whole family to be lost like that, and especially for the children.
Plus, tragedy strikes a small town north of Toronto. How the local flying community is coming together after a deadly plane crash kills 5 members of a GTA family.
Carpet rollers in position, please, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, nice and slowly.
And rolling out the red carpet at the Oscars as Canadian nominees are honored at a glitzy Hollywood reception. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. The eyes of the city and beyond were focused on a synagogue in Thornhill through much of the evening tonight. The synagogue is condemning protesters for demonstrating outside their house of worship, while pro-Palestinian demonstrators are condemning the synagogue for hosting a real estate event marketing properties including in the occupied West Bank. Dale Manukduk is live at the scene. Dale, you've been there throughout the night. Things certainly got tense earlier, and York Regional Police confirming late tonight multiple arrests were made.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. Our cameras captured 3 people being put into police vehicles. 2 of them were cornered by pro-Palestinian demonstrators until police were able to bring them into custody. But it's all quiet now. This stretch of Clark Avenue, it was shut down for nearly 7 hours. It started at around 2 o'clock. It was a very lively protest and counter-protest. Police dispersed the remainders of those groups at around 9 o'clock, guiding them in opposite directions. But at the heart of the protest is the sale of the land in the West Bank that the Canadian government says is under illegal Israeli occupation. Hundreds of Palestinian protesters and allies stood across the street from the Bayat synagogue to protest a real estate event.
We are here to protest against the genocidal and illegal sales of stolen Palestinian land to further illegal Israeli settlements. Until we reject Zionism, it will continue to eat up and swallow Palestinian land.
The synagogue, which is renting space to the real estate event, put a call out to its community to counter-protest.
For a group of protesters to show up at a house of worship, I would never show up at a mosque if I felt something illegal like funding terrorist groups was being done by a mosque. I have too much respect for a house of prayer. The landing page advertising the event lists 13 areas where real estate can be purchased. 3 of those areas are within the West Bank. Canada does not recognize permanent Israeli control over territories occupied in 1967 and opposes illegal settlement outposts in the West Bank. The state of Israel disagrees with Canada and other members of the international community and feels that it has the right to sell those properties. The properties that are being sold are in established Jewish communities. The synagogue and some supporters called the protest unlawful, saying it was causing fear and disturbing the peace. Police were on site to maintain order, but some were unhappy with the job they were doing.
They're not maintaining the peace. We're maintaining the peace. Me and the thousands of other people that took a day off work, drove down here to be part of the wall of humanity.
I urge them, if they were pro-humanity and pro-justice, then they should be on our side, making sure that their places of worship are not used as cover to further hate and divide and further these illegal activities.
There were moments of tension. York Regional Police say there were multiple arrests, but wouldn't go into further detail. But a pro-Palestinian demonstrator says he didn't see any arrests on his side of the dueling protests.
Not one person has been arrested today because we have not done anything to instigate or to agitate.
Chris, York Regional Police wouldn't specify how many arrests were made or the nature of potential charges. They say that they will likely put out an official release tomorrow morning. Now, as for the crux of the protest, which again is about the sale of land in the West Bank to people here in Canada, we did ask the federal government if it's illegal to do so. We did not receive a response, but protesters are hoping that the federal government will prevent any further events like this from happening in the future. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Dale. Dale Manukduk reporting live for us tonight in Thornhill. Taking you now to an Ottawa suburb where tonight a memorial is growing after a heart-wrenching tragedy. A mother, her 4 young children, and a family friend were killed in their townhouse.
I didn't know that it's that serious. I didn't know at all. So today morning when I heard CFRA and then in the messages, and I said, oh my God, this is something major has happened on our street.
The dead woman's husband, who is also the children's father, was seen screaming for help outside the home. Police say he was seriously injured. Of those killed, the oldest child was just 7 years old, and the youngest was less than 3 months old. A 19-year-old Sri Lankan man who's believed to be an international student had been living in the home. He's now facing 6 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. North of Toronto in King Township, there was heartbreak and disbelief today as more people in the local flying community came to grips with the fact that a deadly plane crash in Tennessee earlier this week killed 5 members of a GTA family. Tyler Cheese has that story.
It's been a tragic accident.
Victor Dotsenko from King Township, Ontario, was an amateur pilot and kept his plane at the Brampton Flight Center. Last night, Nashville police confirmed Victor, his wife Rima, and their 3 children, David, Adam, and Emma, were killed in a deadly plane crash in Nashville earlier this week. Members of the Brampton Flying Club say they were shocked to hear the news.
Especially for a whole family to be lost like that, and especially for the children.
It's tragic to hear. It's really hard. It's hard to hear because it's so close to home, especially like with myself flying out of here almost every day, knowing that could happen to anybody.
It's a shock whenever you lose anybody to an accident.
The Flying Club's general manager, Alan Page, also spoke to CBC News by phone today.
Losing somebody like that has been devastating. It makes you think about flying in general. There are risks involved, obviously, but we all love flying. You know, Victor was not in it for a career. He was doing it because he wanted to fly, and he just enjoyed being a pilot.
On Monday, the family took off from the Milton area, making stops in Pennsylvania and Kentucky before heading to Nashville.
Oh my God.
The plane later crashed and burst into flames alongside a highway west of the downtown area of the city.
I spoke to the mayor of King this morning and just expressed our profound sorrow to the people of King, the Dotsenko family, for the loss of in this great tragedy, particularly these 3 young children.
King Township's Mayor Steve Pellegrini released a statement writing, "This is a heartbreaking and devastating loss for our tight-knit community. Our thoughts and prayers are with the loved ones of the victims during this incredibly difficult time." The Dotsenko children were students at UMCA Rich Tree Academy, a private school in Vaughan. A statement from the school reading in part, "These beautiful children lit up our hallways every day. They all had such a positive energy and attitude towards their friends and teachers." Canada's Transportation Safety Board says it's assigned a representative to join the U.S.-led investigation of the crash. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto community housing tenants had the rare opportunity tonight to share housing concerns directly with the mayor. Olivia Chow met with about 150 tenants to talk about services that are important to them and what kind of changes they'd like to see. Anam Khan was at the meeting.
How is your story compared?
Mayor Olivia Chow is taking a new approach to tackle community housing issues in Toronto by having the tenants come up with solutions to issues they are impacted by. She pushed them to imagine themselves in her shoes.
If you are mayor, what would you do?
On Thursday, she met with about 150 tenants at the Central YMCA in Toronto to learn about what kind of services are important to them, why they're important, and what kind of change they're looking for.
Often, when we put a budget together or we talk about city services, we traditionally hear from homeowners. We hear from social service agencies, business improvement area people. All of that is important. But very seldom do we actually hear from the tenants that live in Toronto community housing.
The mayor putting her skills on community engagement to use from before she became mayor, encouraging tenants to voice their specific concerns.
It gives us a voice.
TCH tenant Marcel Charlebois says his main concern with his living situation is around safety.
There's a rise in violence, a lot of rise in gun violence. Partner abuse is going up. There's a lot of community assaults happening. And these are the things that really weren't there before.
Fellow tenant Chad Hamad says he's worried about air quality.
I'm looking for more accessibility for people with my type of disabilities, smoke-free buildings that City of Toronto does not have, for people with respiratory problems.
Problems and their possible solutions were written down, put on a board for the city to now go through. Mayor Chow chaired the meeting alongside leaders with Toronto Community Housing.
For me, it is so helpful to hear what is being said to help ground us to know what's important for the tenants.
Chow says this is the start of many workshops. She says she will come back to the community to discuss solutions. Adam Khan, CBC News, Toronto.
Advocates fighting against an elevated railway took their message to Queen's Park today. Metrolinx is on track to build a light rail section through Eglinton Flats in the neighborhood of Mount Dennis. Residents there say they've been consulted. They have not been consulted on the project and are feeling ignored.
A diverse community has come together in an incredible effort to save our parks, despite being treated with contempt by the Ford government and ghosted by our local MPP, Michael Ford. We want world-class transit, but the Ford government's plan is anything but. Putting an elevated LRT line through parks is the worst option for our community, for the environment, the urban Indigenous community, residents, and in the long run, taxpayers.
Okay, so residents say they would like to see the elevated rail section run underground instead. Metrolinx says the area is a floodplain and building a tunnel would be complex, more time-consuming, and more disruptive for the community. 4 degrees and clear tonight as we look live at the city, but do not be fooled. Colette, significant rainfall is expected late in the day tomorrow and into Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. With a day like today, the sky is so blue, it's hard to think about these things, but got to get you all prepared for what's to come this weekend. And a special weather statement has been issued by Environment Canada. This is for the rain. It begins tomorrow, really in the late evening hours and overnight, and then through the day, a soggy day on Saturday. So that potential for 20 to 40 millimeters of rain before it has worked its way all the way through. So for tonight, we don't have to deal with anything, a few clouds, and that's about it. Even tomorrow morning, at least around the Golden Horseshoe, we should start with some sunshine, certainly there and on towards eastern Ontario, then increasing cloudiness. But in the afternoon, you'll see that rain overtaking southwestern Ontario. And then by evening, by 8 p.m., it is on the doorstep of western sides of the GTHA. And so then that starts moving in. Some of the heavy rains coming in waves through the day on Saturday. And then behind it, cooler air, which I will talk about coming up, and some wet flurries with that. But just to know that overnight tonight, it's 2 degrees, Chris, and 8 for the high on your Friday.
Well, at least tomorrow morning is starting off nicely. Thank you, Colette. Welcome back. I want to return now with a bit of a reversal at Queen's Park today. After initially denying a Liberal member's request to speak in the legislature about International Women's Day, today the Ford government said it would allow it. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop walks us through what happened.
Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent.
It all started yesterday, right after question period, with this request.
5 minutes be allotted to the independent members as a group to respond to the ministerial statement tomorrow on International Women's Day.
But everyone in the House had to be in favor.
Agreed? No. I heard a no.
Then a government member stood up.
I would just like to remind all the women in the House that tomorrow, after question period, we will be taking a photo for International Women's Day here in the chambers. Thanks.
Today, independent women MPPs held a news conference, furious.
Telling us that we can't speak on International Women's Day and then right after inviting us for a photo is the equivalent of telling us, be pretty and shut up.
The independents include the Liberals and Greens, since they don't have official party status. The person who called out no yesterday was Government House Leader Paul Calandra. His reasoning?
Every unanimous consent motion that I am not aware of, I will say no to. I was not approached either after.
Lucille Collard says her party did reach out. And an email sent last Friday by a staffer shows someone from the Liberals alerted a member of Calandra's office, as well as 2 NDP staffers, of unanimous consent motions to come, including that one. One Liberal MPP says after saying no, Calandra also seemed to be mocking them.
Crying, teary eyes, and then he opened up his desk and handed a box of tissues.
It was absolutely deplorable, demeaning, and disgraceful.
Calandra says the fake crying was a joke directed at Liberal John Fraser.
It had nothing to do on that motion. Mr. Fraser and I often joke back and forth on any number of issues.
That's not how the Liberals took it.
When he said no, I just said like literally, I didn't say anything. I just why did you do it?
Today, another attempt for speaking time.
Agreed? Agreed.
And this afternoon, that speaking time happened, but with a message for the women on the government side.
I sincerely hope you felt our pain and raised your voices to the men who stood in our way.
This mini scandal added politics to speeches that likely wouldn't have been political. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, taking a live look right now at the city of Windsor, and it's a pretty calm and nice night there in Windsor and right across the region. But Colette, I just want to make sure I've got this right. Through the overnight and into tomorrow, calm conditions, and then that turns in a hurry by tomorrow evening.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. I mean, we keep talking. Obviously, we're coming off of the warmest Toronto has ever been for winter time when we look at the months of December and January and February since we've been keeping records. But it's like almost every day I'm saying above seasonal, above seasonal. So just to give you those markers again of what that means, like a normal high at this time of year is 3, a low of -5 today, rounding off the decimals, 10 degrees. For our high, and our lows have been so mild too. I mean, above freezing. Now we will have a shot of cooler air coming in and maybe even a little dusting of some light wet snow. Mostly it's flurries that will melt, but it's nothing like what's coming through Atlantic Canada. So just if you're wondering where winter is, boy, our friends along the Avalon Peninsula, they are looking at maybe more than 50 centimeters of snowfall passing through there, and obviously quite a mix that's gone through Atlantic Canada and through the Maritimes. So we're just dealing with this system, not that one, and this is the one that's going to bring first the increase in cloudiness. You will get into probably later afternoon showers from Windsor, and then eventually on towards London. Then later evening, this passes on towards Hamilton, Toronto, Pickering, continues to move through, but into Saturday, it's still going to be coming in waves, so some heavy rain moves through. It may seem like you're getting a break, but then the next wave will roll on through, and that's likely going to just tag that west end of Lake Ontario. And that's why I was saying earlier in the show, the special weather statement with perhaps as much as 20, 30, even in some cases more than 40 millimeters of rainfall possible, especially into parts of eastern Ontario as this rides through. Most of it coming on Saturday. Overnight tonight, our temperatures dropping to freezing to about 2 degrees for Toronto. That colder air and those negatives will be back, but that's later on in the weekend. And that's why as this moves through Sunday, we could see a mix actually Saturday night into Sunday. And yes, set your clocks forward. But then some wet flurries into Sunday after -1 for the low, 1 the daytime high, and then -3. But that cold air, it just doesn't last. It doesn't stick around, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Colette. Taking you to Whitby, where a homeless shelter is opening on Dundas Street East near Thixon Road.
This will be a 45-bed shelter. It will open over a period of time. It won't happen all at once, and it'll be a gradual opening over the next little while.
The low barrier shelter will allow anybody to enter, and it'll be located in a former nursing home. Durham Region bought the building in August for $13.7 million. We're going to hop on a quick break, and we will be right back. All right, now to the fun part of the show. Preparations are underway for the 96th Academy Awards this Sunday, and ahead of the weekend festivities, a reception to honor the nominees of Canadian films is being held tonight in LA, and senior entertainment reporter Eli Glasner joins us from that event unfolding right now. Eli, before you talk about some of the nominees, let's talk about this storm that was forecasted to hit there as the Oscars are getting prepared. What's the latest with that?
So there's been this atmospheric river that has been parked over parts of Southern California for weeks now. There's been a deluge, there's been worries about landslides, and even the reason I'm talking to you under a tent is that when we arrived, it was sunny and clear, and then the thunder started and the lightning. Now everything's hunky-dory, sun's coming back, it's Los Angeles. I'm not going to compare. Look, we're Canadians. We're fine. You know, a little bit of rain, it's not going to keep us away, and you can see Misha, the director of Tequila Tiger, an amazing documentary that is in the running for an Oscar. So the red carpet is now very much underway, and it's all about celebrating this year, once again, a bountiful crop of nominees, and right across the spectrum, whether it's visual effects, animation, or more, Chris.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So as you say, the show must go on. Walk us through some of the other nominees and guests there tonight.
I think one of the best movies that is in the running this year at the Oscars is this remarkable movie by Toronto's very own playwright and now screenwriter and director, Oscar nominated for Best Picture. I'm talking about The Remarkable Past Lives. If you have not seen this amazing film about emigration, about friendship, about love, and really those gray areas in between, you really need to do yourself a favor. Now, Celine Song, the director and writer, has not shown up just yet, but here's hoping she's still going to arrive. Also looking out for Ryan Gosling, because of course he is nominated for his supporting actor role in Barbie, where he is Ken. You can't do Barbie without Ken. He was Kentastic, and there is one more Kenning to come. He is going to perform I'm Just Ken at the Oscars, so that is something very exciting to look forward to. Another movie enjoying some Oscar glow is Mona. This is an animated film. You can watch it on Netflix. It is from Sheridan's own Troy Quayne, and he was talking about how the Oscars really have brought a new audience to that movie, which maybe was overshadowed by the Spider-Verse and some other cartoons, but now that it's nominated, here's Troy talking about that Oscar ripple effect. Take a listen.
The response has been amazing. I think the really exciting response has been for the movie itself.
Yeah.
Like, so once we got that nomination, like, we were the dark horse sort of nomination in there, and once we got that nomination, all of a sudden, you know, reading new articles and new reviews of people saying, like, I wish I had seen this last summer, you know, and it would have been in my top 5 of last year. And you go like, ugh, but you know, we're here now, and they're appreciating now, and that's been super exciting.
They are here now. They're still in the running. Who knows what happens Sunday? And one more thing, Chris. The great thing is when you're nominated, whether it's a big or short film, you get to go to the Oscars luncheon. So I was talking with the filmmakers behind Invincible. This is a short from Montreal. They got to be in the room with all the nominees, got to chat with Steven Spielberg about shooting in Montreal. That is what an Oscar nomination can do for you.
Oh, man, so exciting. It certainly sounds like you're enjoying the Oscar glow down there in L.A., Eli. We're going to let you go and get back to the party. Senior entertainment reporter Eli Glasser for us in Los Angeles. A nice way to end tonight. I'll be back with you, of course, tomorrow night at 11, and we'll see you then.